Good morning, everybody. We are continuing on with our Read Aloud Wonder by R.J. Palacio. We're picking up where Ms. Stegbauer left off on page 65, where it says Mr. Brown's October Precept. Mr. Brown's precept for October was, "Your deeds are your monuments." He told it that this was written on the tombstone of some Egyptian guy that died thousands of years ago, since we were just about to start studying ancient Egypt and history. Mr. Brown thought this was a good choice for a precept. Our homework assignment was to write a paragraph about what we thought the precept meant and how we felt about it. This is what I wrote. This precept means that we should be remembered for the things we do. The things we do are the most important things of all. They are more important than what we say or what we look like. The things we do outlast our mortality. The things we do are like monuments that people build to honor heroes after they've died. They're like the pyramids that the Egyptians built to honor the pharaohs. Only instead of being made out of stone, they're made out of the memories people have of you. That's why your deeds are like your monuments, built with memories instead of with stone. Apples. My birthday is October 10th. I like my birthday, 10/10. It would have been great if I'd been born exactly at 10:10 in the morning or at night, but I wasn't. I was born just after midnight, but I still think my birthday is cool. I usually have a little party at home, but this year I asked my mom if I could have a big bowling party. Mom was surprised but happy. She asked me who I wanted to ask for my class, and I said everyone in my homeroom plus Summer. "That's a lot of kids, Augie," said Mom. "I have to invite everyone because I don't want anyone to get their feelings hurt if they find out other people are invited and they aren't. Okay?" "Okay," Mom agreed. "You even want to invite the what's the deal kid?" "Yeah, you can invite Julian," I answered. "Geez, Mom, you should forget about that already." "I know, you're right." A couple of weeks later, I asked Mom who was coming to my party, and she said Jack Will, Summer, Reed Kingsley, both Maxes, and a couple of other kids said they were going to try to be there. Like who? Charlotte's mom said Charlotte had a dance recital earlier in the day, but she was going to try to come to your party if time allowed. And Tristan's mom said she might come after his soccer game. "So that's it," I said. "That's like 5 people." "That's more than 5 people, Augie. I think a lot of people just had plans already," Mom answered. We were in the kitchen. She was cutting one of the apples we had gotten at the farmer's market into teensy-weensy bites so I could eat it. "What kind of plans?" I asked. "I don't know, Augie. We sent out the Evites kind of late." "Like, what did you tell them, though? What reasons did you give?" "What Everyone gave different reasons, Augie." She sounded a little bit impatient. "Really, sweetie, it shouldn't matter what their reasons were. People had plans, and that's all." "What did Julian give as his reason?" I asked. Said Mom, "his mom was the only person who didn't RSVP at all." She looked at me. "I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree." I laughed because I thought she was making a joke, but then I realized she wasn't. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Never mind. Go wash your hands and so you can eat." My birthday party turned out to be much smaller than I thought it would be, but it was still great. Jack, Summer, Reed, Tristan, and both Maxes came from school, and Christopher came too, all the way from Bridgeport with his parents, and Uncle Bet came. And Aunt Kate and Uncle Poe drove in from Boston, though Tata and Papa were in Florida for the winter. It was fun because all the grown-ups ended up bowling in the lane next to ours, so it really felt like there were a lot of people there to celebrate my birthday. Halloween. At lunch the next day, Summer asked me what I was going to be for Halloween. Of course, I'd been thinking about it since last Halloween, so I knew right away. "Boba Fett." "You know you can wear a costume to school on Halloween, right?" "No way, really?" "So long as it's politically correct." "What, like no guns and stuff?" "Exactly." "What about blasters?" "I think blasters are like a gun, Augie." "Oh man," I said, shaking my head. "Boba Fett has a blaster." "At least we don't have to come like a character in a book anymore. In the lower school, that's what you had to do. Last year, I was the Wicked Witch from the west of the Wizard of Oz." "But that's a movie, not a book." "Hello," Summer answered. "It was a book first. One of my favorite books in the world, actually. My dad used to read it to me every night in the first grade." When Summer talks, especially when she's excited about something, her eyes squint like she's looking right at the sun. I hardly ever see Summer during the day since the only class we have together is English. But ever since the first lunch at school, we've sat together at the summer table together every day, just the two of us. So, what are you going to be? I asked her. I don't know yet. I know what I'd really want to go as, but I think it might be too dorky. You know, Savannah's group isn't even wearing costumes this year. They think they're too old for Halloween. What? That's just dumb. I know, right? I thought you didn't care what those girls think. She shrugged and took a long drink of her milk. So, what dorky thing do you want to dress up as? I asked her, smiling. Promise not to laugh. She raised her eyebrows and her shoulders, embarrassed. A unicorn. I smiled and looked down at my sandwich. Hey, you promised not to laugh, she laughed back. Okay, okay, I said, but you're right, that is too dorky. I know, she said, but I have it all planned out. I'd make the head out of paper mache and paint the gold horn and make the manes gold too. It would be so awesome. Okay, I shrugged, then you should do it. Who cares about what other people think, right? Maybe what I'll do is just wear it for the Halloween parade, she said, snapping her fingers. And I'll just be like a goth girl for school. Yeah, that's it. That's what I'll do. Sounds like a plan, I nodded. Thanks, Augie, she giggled. You know, that's what I like best about you. I feel like I can tell you anything. Yeah, I answered, nodding. I gave her a thumbs up sign. Cool beans. School pictures. I don't think anyone will be shocked to learn I don't want to have my school picture taken on October 22nd. No way, no thank you. I stopped letting anyone take pictures of me a while ago. I guess you can call it a phobia. No, actually, it's not a phobia, it's an aversion, which is a word I just learned in Mr. Brown's class. I have an aversion to having my picture taken. There, I used it in a sentence. I thought Mom would try to get me to drop my aversion to having my picture taken for school, but she didn't. Unfortunately, while I managed to avoid having the portrait taken, I couldn't get out of being part of the class picture. Ugh, the photographer looked like he just sucked on a lemon when he saw me. I'm sure he thought I ruined the picture. I was one of the ones in the front sitting down. I didn't smile, not that anyone could tell if I had. The cheese touch. Excuse me. I noticed not too long ago that even though people were getting used to me, no one would actually touch me. Excuse me. I didn't realize this at first, but it's not like kids go around touching each other that much in middle school anyway. But last Thursday in dance class, which is like my least favorite class, Mrs. Antanabi, the teacher, tried to make Samantha Chin be my dance partner. Now, I've never actually seen someone have a panic attack before, but I have heard about it, and I'm pretty sure Samantha had a panic attack at that second. She got really nervous and turned pale and literally broke into a sweat within a minute, and then she came up with some lame excuse about having to go to the bathroom. Anyway, Mrs. Antanabi let her off the hook because she ended up not making anyone dance together. Then yesterday, in my science elective, we were doing this cool mystery powder investigation where we had to classify a substance as an acid or a base. Everyone had to heat their mystery powders on a heating plate and make observations. So we were all huddled around the powders with our notebooks. Now there were 8 kids in the elective, and 7 of them were squished together on one side of the plate, while one of them, me, had loads of room on the other side. So of course I noticed this, but I was hoping Ms. Rubin wouldn't notice this because I didn't want her to say something. But of course she did notice this, and of course she said something. Guys, there's plenty of room on that side. Tristan, Nino, go over there, she said. So Tristan and Nino scooted over to my side. Tristan and Nino have always been okay nice to me. I want to go on the record saying that not super nice, like they go out of their way to hang out with me, but okay nice, like they say hello to me and talk to me like normal. And they didn't even make a face when Ms. Rubin told them to come on my side, which a lot of kids do when I think I'm not looking. Anyway, everything was going fine until Tristan's mystery powder started melting. He moved his foil off the plate just as my powder began to melt too, which is why I moved mine off of the plate. And then my hand accidentally bumped his hand for a fraction of a second. Tristan jerked his hand away so fast he dropped his foil on the floor while knocking everyone else's foil off of the heating plate. Tristan, yelled Miss Rubin, but Tristan didn't even care about the spilled powder on the floor or that he ruined the experiment. What he was most concerned about was getting to the lab sink to wash his hand as fast as possible. That's when I knew for sure that there was this thing about touching me at Beecher Prep. I think it's like the cheese touch in the diary of a wimpy kid. The kids in that story were afraid they'd catch the cooties if they touched the old moldy cheese on the basketball court. At Beecher Prep, I'm the old moldy cheese. Costumes. For me, Halloween is the best holiday in the world. It even beats Christmas. I get to dress up in a costume. I get to wear a mask. I get to go around like every other kid with a mask and nobody thinks I look weird. Nobody takes a second look. Nobody noticed me. And nobody knows me. I wish every day could be Halloween. We could all wear masks all the time. Then we could walk around and get to know each other before we get to see what we looked like under the masks. When I was a turtle, I used to wear an astronaut helmet everywhere I went. To the playground, to the supermarket, to pick up Via from school, even in the middle of the summer, though it was so hot my face would sweat. I think I wore it a couple of years, but I had to stop wearing it when I had my eye surgery. I was about 7, I think, and then we couldn't find the helmet after that. Mom looked everywhere for it. She figured that it had probably ended up at Grand's attic, and she kept meaning to look for it, but by then I had gotten used to not wearing it. I have pictures of me in all my Halloween costumes. My first Halloween, I was a pumpkin. My second, I was Tigger. My third, I was Peter Pan. My dad dressed up as Captain Hook. My fourth, I was Captain Hook, and my dad was dressed up as Peter Pan. And my fifth, I was an astronaut. My sixth, I was Obi-Wan Kenobi. My seventh, I was a clone trooper. My eighth, I was Darth Vader. My ninth, I was the Bleeding Scream, the one that has the fake blood oozing over the skull mask. And this year, I will go as Boba Fett. Not Boba Fett the kid in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, but Boba Fett the man from the Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Mom searched everywhere for the costume but couldn't find one in my size, so she bought me a Jango Fett costume since Jango was Boba's dad and wore the same armor and then painted the armor green. She did some other stuff to make it look worn too. Anyway, it looks totally real. Mom's good at costumes. In homeroom, we all talked about what we were going to be for Halloween. Charlotte was going as Hermione from Harry Potter. Jack was going as a Wolfman. I heard that Julian was going as Jango Fett, which was a weird coincidence. I don't think he liked hearing that I was going as Boba Fett. On the morning of Halloween, Via had this big crying meltdown about something. Via's always been so calm and cool, but this year she's had a couple of these kind of fits. Dad was late for work and was like, Via, let's go, let's go. Usually Dad is super patient about things, but not when it comes to his being late for work, and his yelling just stressed out Via even more, and she started crying louder. So Mom told Dad to take me to school, and then she'd deal with Via. Then Mom kissed me goodbye quickly before I even put on my costume and disappeared into Via's room. Augie, let's go now, said Dad. I have a meeting I cannot be late for. I haven't put on my costume yet. So put it on already. 5 minutes. I'll meet you outside. I rushed to my room and started to put on my Boba Fett costume, but all of a sudden I didn't feel like wearing it. I'm not sure why, because it had all these belts that needed to be tightened and I needed someone help to put it on. Or maybe it was because it still smelled like paint. All I knew was that it was a lot of work to put the costume on and Dad was waiting and would get super impatient if I made him late. So at the last minute, I threw on my Bleeding Screen costume from last year. It was an easy costume, just a long black robe and a big white mask. I yelled goodbye from the door on my way out, but Mom didn't even hear me. I thought you were going as Jango Fett, said Dad when I got outside. Boba Fett. Whatever, said Dad. This is the better costume anyway. Yeah, it's cool, I answered. The Bleeding Scream. Walking through the halls that morning on my way to the lockers was, I have to say, absolutely awesome. Everything was different now. I was different. Where I usually walked with my head down, trying to avoid being seen, today I walked with my head up, looking around. I wanted to be seen. One kid wearing the exact same costume as mine, long white skull face, oozing fake red blood, high-fived me as we passed each other on the stairs. I have no idea who he was, and he had no idea who I was, and I wondered for a second if he would have ever done that if he had known that it was me under the mask. I was starting to think this was going to go down as one of the most awesome days in the history of my life. But then I got to homeroom. The first costume I saw as I walked inside the door was Darth Sidious. It had one of the rubber masks that are so realistic with a big black hood over the head and a long black robe. I knew right away it was Julian, of course. He must have changed his costume at the last minute. He thought I was coming as Jango Fett. He was talking to two mummies who must have been Miles and Henry, and they were all kind of looking at the door, like they were waiting for someone to come through it. I knew it wasn't the bleeding scream they were looking for. It was a Boba Fett. I was going to go and sit at my usual desk, but for some reason, I don't know why, I found myself walking over to a desk near them, and I could hear them talking. One of the mummies was saying, "It really does look like him." "Like this part especially," asked Julian's voice. He put his fingers on the cheeks and the eyes of Darth Sidious's mask. "Actually," said the mummy, "what he really looks like is one of those shrunken heads. Have you ever seen those? He looks exactly like that." "I think he looks like an orc." "Oh, yeah." "If I looked like that," said Julian's voice, kind of laughing, "I swear to God I'd put a hood over my face every day." "I thought about this a lot," said the second mummy, sounding serious, "and I really think if I looked like him, seriously, I think I'd kill myself." "You would not," answered Darth Sidious. "Yeah, for real," insisted the same mummy. "I can't imagine looking in the mirror every day and seeing myself like that. It would be too awful, and getting stared at all the time." "Then why do you hang out with him so much?" asked Darth Sidious. "I don't know," answered the mummy. "Tishman asked me to hang out with him at the beginning of the year, and he must have told all the teachers to put us next to each other in our classes or something." The mummy shrugged. I knew the shrug, of course, and I knew the voice. I knew I wanted to run out of the class right then and there, but I stood where I was and listened to Jack Will finish what he was saying. "I mean, the thing is, he always follows me around. What am I supposed to do?" "Just ditch him," said Julian. I don't know what Jack answered because I walked out of the class without anyone knowing I had been there. My face felt like I was on fire while I walked back down the stairs. I was sweating under my costume and I started crying. I couldn't keep it from happening. The tears were so thick in my eyes I could barely see, but I couldn't wipe them through the mask as I walked. I was looking for a tiny spot to disappear into. I wanted a hole I could fall inside of, a little black hole that would eat me up. Names: Rat Boy, Freak, Monster, Freddy Krueger, E.T., Gross Out, Lizard Face, Mutant. I know the names they call me. I've been in enough playgrounds to know that kids can be mean. I know. I ended up in the second floor bathroom. No one was there because first period had started and everyone was in class. I locked the door to my stall and took off my mask and just cried. For I don't know how long. Then I went to the nurse's office and told her I had a stomach ache, which was true because I felt like I had been kicked in the gut. Nurse Molly called Mom and had me lie down on the sofa next to her desk. 15 minutes later, Mom was at the door. "Sweetness," she said, coming over to hug me. "Hi," I mumbled. I didn't want her to ask anything until afterward. "You have a stomach ache?" she asked, automatically putting her hand on my forehead to check my temperature. "He said he feels like throwing up," said Nurse Molly, looking at me with a very nice eyes. "And I have a headache," I whispered. "I wonder if it's something you ate," said Mom, looking worried. "There's a stomach bug going around," said Nurse Molly. "Oh, geez," said Mom, her eyebrows going up as she shook her head. She helped me to my feet. "Should I call a taxi, or are you okay walking home?" "I can walk home." "What a brave kid," said Nurse Molly, patting me on the back as she walked us toward the door. "If he starts throwing up or runs a temperature, you should call the doctor." "Absolutely," said Mom, shaking Nurse Molly's hand. "Thank you so much for taking care of him." "My pleasure," asked Nurse Molly, putting her hand under my chin and tilting my face up. "You take care of yourself, okay?" I nodded and mumbled, "Thank you." Mom and I walked the whole way home. I didn't tell her about what had happened, and later, when she asked me, I felt well enough to go trick-or-treating after school. I said no. This worried her since she knew how much I loved trick-or-treating. I heard her say to Dad on the phone, "He doesn't even have the energy to go trick-or-treating." "No, no fever at all." "Well, I will if he doesn't feel better by tomorrow." I know, poor thing. Imagine his missing Halloween. I got out of school the next day too, which was Friday, so I had the whole weekend to think about everything. I was pretty sure I would never go back to school again. We're going to finish up with part 2, Via. Far above the world, planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do. David Bowie, Space Oddity. A tour of the galaxy. August is the sun. Me and mom and dad are planets orbiting around the sun. The rest of our family and friends are asteroids and comets floating around the planets orbiting the sun. The only celestial body that doesn't orbit August, the sun, is Daisy the dog, and that's only because her little doggy eyes. August's face doesn't look very different from any other human's face. To Daisy, all of our faces look alike, as flat and pale as the moon. I'm used to the way this universe works. I've never minded it because it's all I've ever known. I've always understood that August is special and has special needs. If I was playing too loudly and he was trying to take a nap, I knew I would have to play something else because he needed to rest after some procedure or other had left him weak or pain. If I wanted mom and dad to watch me play soccer, I knew that 9 out of 10 times they'd miss it because they were busy shuttling August to speech therapy or physical therapy or a new specialist or a surgery. Mom and dad would always say I was the most understanding little girl in the world. I don't know about that, just that I understood there was no point in complaining. I've seen August after his surgeries, his little face bandaged up and swollen, his tiny body full of IVs and tubes to keep him alive. After you've seen someone else go through that, it kind of feels crazy to complain over nothing, getting the toy you had asked for, or your mom missing a school play. I knew this even when I was 6 years old. No one ever told me, I just knew it. So I've gotten used to not complaining, and I've gotten used to not bothering mom and dad with little stuff. I've gotten used to figuring things out on my own. How to put toys together, how to organize my life so I don't miss my friends' birthday parties, how to stay on top of my schoolwork so I never fall behind in class. I've never asked for help with my homework, never needed reminding to finish a project or study for a test. If I was having trouble with a subject in school, I'd go home and study it until I figured it out on my own. I taught myself how to convert fractions into decimal points by going online. I've done every school project pretty much by myself. When mom or dad ask me how things are going in school, I've always said good, even when it hasn't been so good. My worst day, worst fall, worst headache, worst bruise, worst cramp, worst mean thing anyone could say has always been nothing compared to what August has gone through. This isn't me being noble, by the way. It's just the way I know it is. And this is the way it's always been for me, for the little universe of us. But this year, there seems to be a shift in the cosmos. The galaxy is changing and planets are falling out of alignment. All right, continuing on from Via's point of view. Before August, I honestly don't remember my life before August came into it. I look at pictures of me as a baby and I see mom and dad smiling so happily holding me. I can't believe how much younger they looked back then. Dad was this hipster dude and mom was this cute Brazilian fashionista. There's one shot of me at my 3rd birthday. Dad's right behind me while mom's holding the cake with 3 lit candles. In the back of us are Tata and Papa, Grands, Uncle Ben, and Aunt Kate and Uncle Poe. Everyone's looking at me and I'm looking at the cake. You can see it in that picture how I was really the first child, first grandchild, first niece. I don't remember what it felt like, of course, but I can see it plain as can be in the pictures. I don't remember the day that they brought August home from the hospital. I don't remember what I said or did or felt when I saw him for the first time, though everyone had a story about it. Apparently, I just looked at him for a long time without saying anything at all, and then finally I said, "It doesn't look like Lily." That was the name of the doll Grands had given me when Mom was pregnant so I could practice being a big sister. It was one of those dolls that are incredibly lifelike, and I had carried it everywhere for months, changing its diaper, feeding it. I'm told I even made a baby sling for it. The story goes that after my initial reaction to August, it only took a few minutes, according to Grands, or a few days, according to Mom, before I was all over him, kissing him, cuddling him, and baby talking to him. After that, I never felt so much as touch or mention Lily ever again. Seeing August. I never used to see August the way that other people saw him. I know he didn't look exactly normal, but I really didn't understand why strangers seemed so shocked when they saw him. Horrified, sickened, scared. There are so many words I can use to describe the looks on people's faces, and for a long time I didn't get it. I just get mad. Mad when they stared. Mad when they looked away. What the heck are you looking at? I'd say to people, even grown-ups. Then, when I was about 11, I went to stay with Grands in Montauk for 4 weeks while August was having a big jaw surgery. This was the longest I'd been away from home, and I'd have to say it was so amazing to suddenly be free of all the stuff that made me so mad. No one stared at Grands and me when we went to the town to buy groceries. No one pointed at us. No one even noticed us. Grands was one of those grandparents who do everything with their grandkids. She'd run in the ocean if I asked her to, even if she had nice clothes on. She would let me play with her makeups and didn't mind if I used it on her face to practice my face painting skills. She'd take me for ice cream even if we hadn't eaten dinner yet. She'd draw chalk horses on the sidewalk in front of her house. One night, while we were walking back from town, I told her that I wished I could live with her forever. I was so happy there. I think it might have been the best time in my life. Coming home after 4 weeks felt very strange at first. I remember very vividly stepping through the door and seeing August running over to welcome me home. And for this tiny fraction of a moment, I saw him not the way I've always seen him, but the way that other people see him. It was only a flash, an instant while he was hugging me. So happy that I was home, but it surprised me because I'd never seen him like that before. And I've never felt what I was feeling before either. A feeling I hated myself for having the moment I had it. But as he was kissing me with all of his heart, all I could see was the drool coming down his chin. And suddenly, there I was, like all those people who would stare or look away. Horrified, sickened, scared. Thankfully, that only lasted for a second. The moment I heard August laugh, his raspy little laugh, it was over. Everything was back to the way it had been before, but it had opened a door for me, a little peephole, and on the other side of the peephole, there were two Augusts, the one I saw blindly and the other that people saw. I think the only person in the world I could have told any of this to was Grands, but I didn't. It was too hard to explain over the phone. I thought maybe when she came for Thanksgiving, I'd tell her what I felt. But just 2 months after I stayed with her in Montauk, my beautiful Grands died. I was so completely out of the blue. Apparently, she had checked herself into the hospital because she was feeling nauseous. Mom and I drove out to see her, but it's a 3-hour drive from where we live. And by the time we got to the hospital, Grands was gone. A heart attack, they told us, just like that. It's so strange how one day you can be on this earth and the next day you're not. Where did she go? Will I ever get to see her again? Or is this just a fairy tale? You see the movies and TVs where people receive horrible news in the hospitals. But for us, with all our many trips to the hospital with August, there had always been good outcomes. What I remember the most from the day Grands died is Mom literally crumbling on the floor in slow, heavy sobs, holding her stomach like someone had punched her. I've never seen Mom like that. Never heard sounds like that come out of her. Even through all of August's surgeries, Mom always put on a brave face. On my last day in Montauk, Grands and I watched the sun set on the beach. We had taken a blanket to sit on, but it had gotten chilly, so we wrapped it around us and cuddled and talked until there wasn't even a sliver of sun left over in the ocean. And then Grands told me she had a secret to tell me. She loved me more than anyone else in the world. Even August, I had asked? She smiled and stroked my hair like she was thinking about what to say. I love Augie very, very much, she said softly. I can still remember her Portuguese accent, the way she rolled her R's. But he has many angels looking for him already, Via, and I want you to know that you have me looking out for you. Okay, Menina querida? I want you to know that you are number one for me. You are mine. She looked out at the ocean and spread her hands out like she was trying to smooth out the waves. You are my everything. You understand me, Via? Tu es mi todo? I understood her, and I knew why she said it was a secret. Grandmas aren't supposed to have favorites. Everyone knows that, but after she died, I held on to that secret and let it cover me like a blanket. All right, Ms. Stegbauer will be continuing with page 88, which is August through the peephole.